morning. Again, we are going to be doing some writing today. When we do writing, we have to really think about how authors think and how they do things. So, what is an author? An author is somebody who writes stories and writes books. So, for most of our writing lessons, we will be looking at a book first, and we're going to be thinking about how that author wrote the book and what he had in mind when he wrote the book. And eventually, you guys are all going to be authors, and you're going to be writing some books and hopefully sharing them with me so that I can share them with everybody at home, and we will have some good stories to tell. So, the first book that I'm going to read to you guys for one of your writing lessons is by Mo Willems. That's the author's name. He is one of my all-time favorites. In fact, next week we'll be doing a book club where we look at a lot of Mo Willems books and we talk about some of them. So, Mo Willems. And this one's called That Is Not a Good Idea. Now, this book has a surprise ending. I want you to try to guess how it's going to end before I get there. Mo Willems, the author. Mo Willems likes to tell a lot of stories with his pictures too, because he is also the illustrator. So he made the pictures. So some of his pages you will not see words, but even the pictures tell a good story. So here's the first part of our story. We see a duck and a fox meeting, and see the red dotted line? That means, I'll go this way. That means that they are looking at each other. What do you think that fox is thinking about that duck? What luck, dinner. Who do you think is thinking that? Excuse me, would you care to go for a stroll? Sure. That is not a good idea. Who do you think the ducklings are talking to? Do you think the ducklings are telling the fox that that's not a good idea, or the mama duck that that's not a good idea? Would you care to continue our walk into the deep, dark woods? Sounds fun. That is really not a good idea, say the ducklings. Would you care to visit my nearby kitchen? I think we all know where this story is going. Somebody's going to get eaten for dinner. I would love to. That is really, really not a good idea, say the ducklings. Would you care to boil some water for the soup? Who's going into the soup? Oh, certainly, I love soup. That is really, really, really not a good idea. Would you care to look at my soup? A key ingredient is missing. An ingredient is something that you put into food or into meals, like salt might be an ingredient. In this case, who do you think is the missing ingredient for the soup? What does that soup need before it's finished? That is really, 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 really not a good idea. Oh, a key ingredient is missing. Now, what do you think is going to happen? Be ready for it. You! Who gets thrown into the soup? The fox. Didn't see that one coming, did ya? Who lines up for supper? The ducklings. And the ducklings say, well, we did try to warn him. So the whole time you were thinking the ducklings were trying to warn their mama duck about ending up in soup, they were actually trying to warn the fox that mama duck meant to make soup out of him. The end. And she says, more soup, children. So I really like Mo Willems because a lot of times his books have endings that are unexpected. And he also uses words that most kids, as they go through first and second grade, can read. The words are not hard, but the stories are good. So if you get a chance before next week, find you some Mo Willems books and read them. They're some of my favorites. And we'll be reading some more next week. So, as an author, Mo Willems thinks about who's going to be reading his books. And the people who are going to be reading his books are kids. So he tries to keep his words simple. He comes up with good ideas. And he has really good main characters. The main characters in this story were the mama duck and the fox and then the ducklings. So we will be getting into that later on how to plan our stories, how to pick our characters, and how to write a really good story. So last time we did our writing, yesterday, we made a list of animals that we thought we might like to write about. Today we're going to make a new list. So stay tuned, and I'm going to add a new lesson where we write a list. Bye. Yesterday for our writing lesson, we wrote a list of animals that we might write about someday. So today we're going to switch over to events. Those are things that have happened to us. So we turn the page. We have our next page has all the animals that we decided we might write about someday. If you happen to see an animal while you're out and about that's not on your list that you think you might like to write about, when you get home, get your writing journal out. Add it to the list. Maybe you go to the zoo and you get to see some zebras or giraffes at the zoo. You think, when I get home, that's something I'd like to write about. Add it to your list. If you're outside playing with your dog, maybe you see a squirrel in the tree. Stop and think, that's something I'd like to write about someday. Come in and add it to your animal list. If you can't quite spell it, it's okay. Unblend it. Write any sounds that you know or get a grown-up to help you. So today, we're turning the page, and on our new page, we are going to write all about events. So I'm putting events at the top. Events are things that have happened to us in our lives that we might like to write about. So some events that are exciting could be a time that you hurt yourself. So you could say, I want to write about that one time I fell out of a tree. Maybe I want to write about that one time a horse fell on me. And it doesn't have to be times that you get hurt or sad times. It could be happy times too. How about when I bought my house? I might write about that someday. Maybe it could be a trip you took. I went to Alaska. Maybe I'll write about the time I went to Mexico. Maybe I'll write about the time I went to Florida. Maybe I don't travel too far. Maybe I'll write about the time I went to the park or the lake. You could write about things you like to do. I go fishing. Write that down. I like to go fishing. You could write about the time I taught my dog to sit. So just think about things in your life that you enjoy, things you have done. It could be a time you got hurt, a time you went on vacation, a time you got a new pet. Maybe you got a new baby brother or sister. Maybe you're about to get a new baby brother or sister. Write about any and all of those things. The sky is the limit. If something fun or exciting happens to you this school year, go into the house and find your journal and add it to the list of things that you would like to write about someday. Again, if you don't know how to spell it, it's okay. When I start doing the writing lessons with you guys, I'm actually going to do a lesson where I spell like a kid. and I'll show you how to unblend words and write down any sounds that you can write. And then I'll show you how, as a grown-up, I go back and fix them and how I know how to fix them. And so we will be talking about that later. But for now, just write any sounds you can hear and do your very best writing. And today I want you to write a list of events that someday you might like to write about. And I want you to also watch your brainstorming video again in the classroom. So I will look forward to reading what you guys have to write about, and I will talk to you later.